What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. How's everybody doing out there on this Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, episode number 142? Dave, you've made your way back again. Hi.
Yes. Yes, I'm doing pretty well. I am actually just like on the outside of watching this whole Twitch drama happen between Twitch thoughts and VTubers, because VTubers are apparently having to cover their hips. Meanwhile, Twitch thoughts are doing whatever. Dude, it's insane.
Wait, a bunch of
it's insane.
Fights need to cover their hips.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it a lot, but like it's ridiculous. It seems like
this might be the whole after show. We might just actually be talking about that after this, but yeah. So that's very interesting. You keep on researching that, Dave. But so. On that note, hi guys. We appreciate everyone for being here wherever you're watching, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube. We appreciate that. Repost, share, smash the like button, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate it all. Just go find us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. We are there. As I always do every single week, I'm going to plug real quick, not plug, but promote. Epstein client list. Everybody should be talking about it. I'm going to talk about it now. I'm going to talk about it on the after show after this. And we should be talking about it, giving a few time every single time we are on the air to talk about it. Because as I always say, this is a bunch of little girls that were taken advantage of, raped, sexually exploited, and they are still living in this world. And there's a bunch of really wealthy, powerful people that have not been brought to justice yet. And these women have to be terrified. And all these people should be brought to justice. So just for a little bit on every single show, every person that chooses to have a platform like this should talk about it, should say at least something so that we can get the ball moving, maybe put pressure on, Washington to every once in a while do something well, but I really can't count on them. But we'll go on to the fun stuff, though. Last week's show, we had on Eric Haight, the Dutchess County Republican elections commissioner, and we talked all about New York politics and election stuff, and that's been going on. And he gave us a lot of inside baseball about things that were going on there. So go back and watch that. And we'll talk about this again later. But they yesterday, somebody sent them a package filled with crystal meth, which is absolutely fucking crazy. And they had to shut down the board, and there's a lot going on there. So we'll talk about that. The Fox News, Fox did a whole article about it. I'll see if they updated it, but they don't necessarily know the origins of it. But it was absolutely, they know that the package came from like a few different countries before it got to them. But everybody's safe, so we're happy and we're praying for them. And election season, baby. It's always great when you're dealing with a bunch of psychos. But we're going to go on to this week's show, because this week's show, we are pumped to have somebody who Dave and I both believe is doing some badass things in our nerdosphere, coupling with individuals like, side scrollers and G&G and Nerdrotic, and really bringing the battle to all the woke bullshit that's been going on and all the things they've been trying to put in. And we're pumped to have him on. He is, David's gone. All right, screw David. He's John Trent. He is the editor-in-chief of That Park Place and Stock Car Report, as well as the host of the Trent Report. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
David just kind of left us. Let me see if I bring him back. David, are you alive?
Hi. I don't know what happened. It just blipped. Yeah, it just blipped and kicked me.
The Twitch drama sucked him in.
Yeah, I was reading an article, and all of a sudden I look over and I just see this yellow, and it says connection lost.
So, John, this is the reason why he's AOL Dave. We had on James and Kay from Melee Games a little while ago. And during that time, Dave's internet, now he lives in West Virginia, so the fact that he has internet is actually amazing. But it was just going crazy. So James, being James, was like, it called him AOL Dave. And so it has stuck because he has like AOL modem connection, apparently. So that's him. John.
A little clip of that. Right.
We do need that. That needs to be a clip. Every time Dave clips out, we'll just have like the little guy running and then failing to get to the family portion. Oh man, I have flashbacks of AOL where you're like watching it and then he starts running and then you want the stupid family to show up and then it doesn't. And you're like, oh damn it! Or someone picks up the phone. But oh man, I'm getting flashbacks.
In a while, I didn't even remember that until you brought it up, and I was like, okay, yeah, I do remember that. I remember watching that.
I'm sitting there watching that, and then it could, and like every once in a while, it's like, okay, it's gonna get there, and then it goes back to the first one. It's like, son of a. Yeah, now look at where we are. We could communicate via podcasting, and if this glitches for a second, we are livid that it is not working. But yes, he is John Trent. John, you're doing some awesome stuff on That Park Place, and we're excited to have you on because Dave and I are both giant nerds, and we have seen basically everything that we have loved torn and taken from us, so much to the point that Dave is embracing all the pain and he's looking forward to the BioShock. But the show that's coming out,
if it does happen, I kind of doubt it at this point, but I want it to happen, and I want everyone to be race and gender swapped as much as possible.
He's just embracing the hate.
Netflix, right? I think that's Netflix.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Odds are quite likely.
Yeah, they're a long cry away from like faithful adaptations with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Like, where did those people go? Like, they can't be working there anymore.
I don't know. I have to go back and look. I mean, a lot of times you do see that these people kind of adapt to the modern standards too. So that is kind of what happens over there in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand. Like, yes, people are just like they have to keep their jobs. I kind of get that, but at the same time, it's like you keeping your job for the short term to make a shitty product that you're then going to get fired for because it's going to make no money. Like, it's incredibly short-sighted. So let's talk about some of the short-sightedness, because you guys had some interesting articles. Dave, do you want me to bring those up here, or are you gonna? Can you can't bring?
I have.
Up, can you?
I have.
Are you back on? Are you in the? You could share them. There we go.
Well, no, I can't share them. You have to bring them.
I have to share them. So we are, because you're useless right now. You are fucking useless today. So
blame Restream.
I am blaming Restream. So we are going to start off with this article that you guys wrote. It is the newly announced Harry Potter TV writer Andy Greenwald does not like the idea of rigorous adaptations of the books and says he has not read the books. So, John, give us a little rundown of what the hell is wrong with these people.
So I actually found probably the best explanation of this that I've seen in the years that I've been covering this. It's novelist Isaac Young did a really good video on this, and he kind of talks about how these people are like older siblings that come to steal their younger siblings' toys because they don't like that their younger sibling has the toys. And so in order to, they not only take the toy, but then they crap all over the toy, making the toy basically useless and making it that it's theirs. So, and they do this on purpose because they're jealous. They have disdain for their younger sibling at that point when they're making that. And so that's kind of how he describes this. And he says that this is kind of the thought process that a lot of these people have. And on top of that, obviously, they are also trying to push their ideology. And they're also trying to humiliate people that they see as their enemies that seem like a lot of these shows, video games, movies, etc., whether it be Harry Potter, whether it be Lord of the Rings, whether it be Wheel of Time, whether it be, I'm trying to think of Halo. We saw that with Paramount. So Star Wars, the list goes on and on and on. And he basically says that these people, they are all operate together. They have patronage networks like the old school kind of elites used to have, where you would fund projects not for profit's sake, but you were doing it for back in the day, it was you're creating beautiful Gothic churches and great works of art that were inspiring people and encouraging them to kind of find truth and beauty and good. And now it's the complete opposite, right? They're crapping on all of that stuff, trying to destroy that. And you see the Soros Foundation does this. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars promoting all of these DEI agendas. And I think there is a lot of truth to the fact that a lot of these companies, they don't actually look at the profit motive anymore, because it's more about
they're getting a bunch of money anyway from these back groups. And if you follow the ideology, which you do a beautiful job blending in like what the ideology is to these articles and kind of educating people as to what they're doing, because a lot of this is your postmodern deconstruction. And that's a lot of what they want to do. And if you read any like your Foucault or Derrida or things like that, they are very much on the deconstruction of everything, basically. Like if you see it, you like it, deconstruct it, there's probably something wrong with it. That is where they are. And we see that in everything that they talk about it, that they're trying to break down this norm or break down that wall. And it's all deconstruction. It's all meant to tear it apart, to make it anew, but there is never an actual plan for what anew truly is.
Yeah, and I think actually Kirsha does a really good job because she's been a dog on this shit, and she's been all over Bridge and everything.
Yeah.
And where it really seems like what their goal is to create the modern audience. The modern audience isn't really there, but people young enough, they don't know a lot of good stories in general. And when all they get is the new stuff from these companies that make just dog water of all the things we love, you're going to create more people that are just used to that standard. And then you could just get them to believe in what the message is.
Definitely.
No, I 100% agree with Kershey on that. That's something that I've actually been talking about for a long time too. They are trying to indoctrinate this new generation. They are trying to also try and poison our own minds too, right? It's not just children. It's not just young adults. It's adults as well. I mean, they're trying to get anyone they possibly can, and they are trying to manufacture this modern audience so that they will just kind of be like the citizens that you see in the film. I think Equilibrium. That's the one. They're basically like that, where they're like completely emotionless and they just go to the factory, do their job, and then come back home and like literally do nothing. And that's basically what they want to just get people to do, except they're consume their product, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah. And, it's just kind of the whole entire too, like, if you don't like it, then you're the problem, right? And that's very much in that Maoist vein of, if you're against the people in any which way, then you're not one of the people. You need to be re-educated. And we see a ton of that in everything that they do here. Now, when it comes to the Harry Potter thing, I found it interesting. You found him talking on a podcast, and he was talking about the fact that he was asked if a rigorous adaptation could be done. And he was like, it absolutely could be done. It could definitely be profitable. But he also feels like, there's other ways to explore. And one of the things that popped up in my head immediately when I talked about them saying other ways to explore is, in the past, J.K. Rowling has turned everyone gay. Every single person you talk about is basically gay in these fucking movies now.
Yeah, like, Dumbledore mainly.
Dumbledore mainly, but you 100% know that as they go into, like even JK said, exploring more of the world and things like that, they are 100% going to delve in. There's going to be like probably a whole episode into Gandalf's crinkly dick trying to get something in a dude. Like, it's actually really gross.
It's going to make the relationship between Harry and Dumbledore disgusting.
Modern. It'll make it very modern. They should call him Diddy Door instead of Dumbledore. Just taking all those kids.
Yeah, add him to the Epstein list.
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, they're just doing all this stuff. So what do you think, John? With what you have seen, do you have any faith? Because like on its face, a TV show with Harry Potter, with all the detail in those books, all the side stories, all the things that they didn't cover in the movies, even though the movies were fantastic and they covered a good amount, but in books, there's always so much more they could do. And it could be amazing, right? This could be something that could be one of the greatest shows in the history of man, because you can get all the generations that love these books watching it, right? But what you have seen, what are we going to get? What do you believe we're going to get out of this?
Oh, I definitely think there's going to be a bunch of like modern woke ideology. We even saw it in Hogwarts Legacy. They had the bartender character that is a man pretending to be a woman. So you're going to get stuff like that. That's going to be in there. I don't think that you can do a Hollywood production in this day and age where you don't have any of that stuff. It's literally in all of these IPs. It's just, it would be bucking the trend if they did not include any of that stuff. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, JK obviously seems to be against a lot of that stuff, but again, it was in Hogwarts Legacy. So how much control does she actually have? How much has she signed over? I think that all depends. And then at the end of the day, JK is she's a feminist liberal, right? She's just because she happens to be opposed to the radical transgender ideology does not mean that she's not for liberal feminism. She doesn't realize that the slippery slope exists, and her liberal feminism led to the transgender ideology that she's now opposing. She doesn't seem to understand that, but she is, at the end of the day, still a liberal feminist, and she's going to push a lot of that stuff that we are opposed into this, even though I think the Harry Potter books are some of the most based books out there.
Yes,
it's literally like a guy who fights against a demon who has to like splits his soul into like 7 parts, and one of those is literally a snake that he has to chop in half.
And like you could see the biblical references that J.K. drew from, right? Because Voldemort's strongest power is his influence over others. And what is Satan? Satan doesn't directly get involved. Satan influences, right? And Voldemort, for basically all the movies except for a few, the end and a few exceptions, is just influence, and just the thought of him made people do things crazy, which is exactly what you see with Dumbledore kind of playing this foil role and Harry being the epic hero's arc. Like it was very, very biblical in so many ways. And I think JK, being a feminist, seeing this was kind of like, whoa, can't lean into that anymore. I did it subconsciously off my Judeo-Christian upbringing in UK. It's like,
I think she's admitted that she had Christian influences. I think she said that publicly at one point. Yeah.
Unless you are absolutely going out to make something that isn't that, if you grew up in like a Western society, your story is probably going to have somewhat of those influences, right? Because that's where we get our morality factor. That's where we get a lot of the what we see as good and what we see as evil is based off the Judeo-Christian upbringings. That's why I always like to fuck with atheists and be like, hey, guess what? You're partially Christian because our laws come from Judeo-Christian values. So whether you like it or not, like
it's literally in the preamble, I think, of the Constitution.
It quite literally is. I want to get to some of these comments because we have some nice activity going on here. I want to jump in. Squiggles. You're happy you're back, Squiggles McJr. I hear we are getting a new Cyberpunk show on Netflix. John, are we getting one? Did you hear anything about that?
I think so. I think I've heard that. I've seen that.
Is it an anime again, or is it?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it's animated.
Yeah. I mean, the anime one is what drove a lot of people to go back, that anime. So if they can do something similar, that could be pretty good again for them. So,
yeah, I think they did announce a new one, or at least it's rumored. I did see something about that. I don't recall off the top of my head here. Yeah, they did like 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
They announced one during like Netflix's like Geeked Week.
So, everyone has their own like week or day or like a festival now. It's like it's not very big anymore. It's not like crazy. Like you pay attention to a few of them, right? So Nate over here saying somebody get him a new disc. Dave, you need a new AOL disc to reload. This is a complaint of everyone. Squiggles, how are you going to make a Halo show and not play the damn game or read the damn books? Yes. They are just trying to absorb the fan base and generate a few more dollars from established IP. And here's the thing, Squiggles, I agree, but I don't think they're going to get it anymore. I think Rings of Power kind of showed a lot that you can have the name, you can have some of the characters, but unless you're faithful, people are going to turn away. And we saw that 100% with Rings of Power.
And this is one thing that I do feel like maybe sometimes I don't communicate very well, is that there's lots of different factors that go into all of this stuff. It's not just like a single overarching factor. Obviously, they are trying to go after the IP because they think they can get like milk as much out of it. But at the same time, they're also going after that IP because they know that it is already successful and it's something that they can like destroy because they see that is something that people do indeed like, and they hate that people like it, so they want to destroy it. So there's all of these things like go into this. It's not just kind of one thing, and I feel like that is something maybe I don't communicate very well, and I think that's something maybe we don't talk about enough, is that there's all of these, there can be like, they aren't mutually exclusive, right? There can be multiple different factors and they all can be true at the same time.
Let me jump to this one. I do enjoy this one of Nate saying, to be honest, wizard riding a broom is pretty feminine gay. Thank you for that, Nate. And yeah, so we'll keep going on this. So
she does make it pretty masculine though with Quidditch. Like with the beaters and all that stuff. That's pretty badass sport. So
and some of the brooms are actually badass because Moody's broom, where he just lays back, it's a lowrider, like that's pretty fucking sweet. He's just like chilling the whole time. And Hagrid obviously with the friggin' bike making as his broom. So she did get creative with a bunch of the stuff that she used. So here's to hoping that they don't screw up Harry Potter, but they're going to screw up Harry Potter because these individuals can't help themselves. And, like you said, I think it's a mandate from above with a lot of this too. It's all there. And again, you talked about the casting call, I think, in here as well, that They have the casting call, and the casting call quite literally states that they are, looking for to be inclusive and diverse and hitting all the right notes. And we're going to get a black Harry Potter.
Well, we already had a black Hermione Granger, so
we did. But the Cursed Child doesn't exist. That was a terrible fucking play. The book was awful. And
JK defended it, so
yeah. Again, JK is not this bastion.
Yeah, but the only way I could defend that is because it's a play. Because plays have never adhered to that type of shit. They just haven't adhered to like lore very well in general for anything. Yeah. So usually the person that they think just does the best in the play, they will choose. That's the only way I can really defend that. Because generally JK has been pretty tight on things being British.
She's been especially with the movies. Very Nintendo-esque with her IP.
Yeah. Like with the movies, she was like, people have to be British. Like we cannot not have them be British. So that's the only way I can defend that, but I wouldn't be surprised if she just was lenient with the show.
Yeah, just to that point, I did see a clip of James Earl Jones as King Lear, and he absolutely just nailed it. So
exactly. When it comes to like plays and musicals, we're a lot more lenient with that stuff, mainly because there's so many different showings, so many people can play it so many different ways. So and they're also not exactly canon. When movies and shows become canon, those are wide, those are huge, and those are what stick in people's minds. The plays will, but only really those who go to see it.
That is true. So I want to jump in here. Squiggles made a good point here. Look at the Resident Evil movies with the Netflix series. Neither stay true to the source material, but people still kind of like those movies enough to make 5 of them. You know what I have to say, though? The movies still felt like Resident Evil. They weren't like, faithful, but they still felt enough like Resident Evil, and they had, Umbrella was prominent in it. The actor, they were doing the same things you would do in a Resident Evil game for the most part. So I think that's why people like that. John, are you a Resident Evil fan?
Not really.
Not really. Killing me, John. No,
I'm familiar with it. I probably I've never really played a lot of the games. I don't really like horror. Isn't like my genre that I kind of gravitate towards.
That's more Dave. Dave is the horror guy. Dave likes all of his horror. And
yes,
stuff like that.
And honestly, I will give the show this. It gave us a couple really good It's a Gundam videos. So I enjoyed those. So the show at least gave me that.
Yeah, anytime Papa Gundam makes something, it's going to be good. So the last question about Harry Potter, Warner Brothers needs a win right now, right? Yeah. How much are they putting into making this? Because like making this good and making this profitable.
I assume this is probably one of their big dogs. Like, I mean, you listen to David Zaslav. He's always talking about Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, DC, and Game of Thrones. Those are like the key IPs that he sees. Obviously, Game of Thrones has been a complete and utter disaster. House of the Dragon season 2, I guess, completely fell off the cliff. I haven't been paying attention to any of that. I don't know why anyone was even watching that to begin with after what they gave us at the end.
I haven't been able to watch. Honestly, I couldn't go back after the last 2 seasons, especially that final one. Even if this was amazing, which season 1 was great, and then season 2 like you said, started off well. But I was not going to get sucked in again just to get fucked over in the end. Like, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Right?
Yeah, and then we'll see what happens with DC with Gunn and Superman, and then Lord of the Rings does not look promising at all. With the War of the Rohirrim movie, looks like more femme boss girl, femme girl boss, whatever you want to call it. With that, an unnamed character is now like the main protagonist. Are you kidding me? In a movie that should be about Helm Hammerhand, it's insulting. Like I said, and they do it on purpose, right? Because they know that those are fun stories, and they want to destroy them, and they want to push their agenda and reward the people that they see as their allies. So that doesn't look promising. We'll see what happens with the Andy Serkis stuff, with the Hunt for Gollum. That might have more kind of that might be where his influence is coming, because that's probably more when Zaslav kind of took the reins and started making creative decisions. Before maybe War of the Rohirrim was probably already in the work with that and really wasn't able to maybe get in there. We'll see. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Zaslav. I feel like Zaslav is smart. He is intelligent. He makes a lot of good business decisions based on like kind of what I follow with Valiant Renegade and Pro, and they're like following their financial quarters and all that stuff, and then the earnings calls and everything. He seems to be making the decisions that Bob Iger makes like a year in advance. Like Bob Iger follows whatever David Zaslav does, I feel like, for a lot of times. So we'll see. I think that the Harry Potter show does have a lot of potential, but again, we're living in 2024. This is the Hollywood that we're used to. They're still all pushing this stuff. Even Bob Iger, who says we got out of the culture war. They literally just showed off like new trans storm clone trooper. Like, okay, you're not out of the culture war. You're an absolute liar. So
I guess the only one that gives you like any sort of hope is the fact that the rumor, and I don't know how true it is. You may know if it's more true that Feige was just firing a bunch of the activists. Like that gives like a modicum of faith that maybe like here's the thing. I've said this before. Growing up watching media, you always had some left agenda things in there thrown in, right? Yeah. Like maybe a quip here and there, and whatever. I'm a conservative person. I could do it as long as it's done fairly tastefully. I could probably laugh at it, right? It's whatever. Funny shit's funny, even if it's at my expense, right? I don't care. But now it's quite literally the whole story, and that's the difference. If they could just go back to being like sane, crazy leftists that let's just throw a little jab here with creating a good story as well, I'm there. Like you want to make
it hard to climb back up the slippery slope.
You know what though? It's hard for them because they're retarded, but in real life it's not hard. You just go and make good. Look at Inside Out. Inside Out was just a really good movie. Look at, DreamWorks with Puss in Boots and Bad Guys. Just make good movies.
Well, like DreamWorks is actually just saying, oh, well, if you guys are going to shoot yourselves right in the face, we're going to go ahead and take care of this. Because I heard The Wild Robot's pretty damn good as well.
Very good too.
Yeah,
and even
things about that one.
And John Lasseter has his own studio. And if anyone I saw the movie Luck, and it didn't get like a bunch of acclaim, but Luck felt like a Disney movie. It felt like your classic John Lasseter Disney movies. They're coming out with a new movie, I believe, end of this year. With his studio, I forget the name of the studio, Sky something. Skydance. And I will watch whatever John Lasseter puts out because since he left Disney, they have been fucking terrible. He has made his decisions to keep it very Walt Disney-like. Like there was that element of adventure to all the movies he was involved in, the element of, just having fun and good moral stories, not your parents fucking suck, rebel against your parents, they're always wrong, spoiled ass kid was right in the end, parents apologize. Like that is quite literally every single Disney movie right now. And I'm not a fan of that, having two young kids, but Hollywood is Hollywood right now.
Yeah, just to go back to your original point there about the Marvel stuff, I covered that. I think that rumor came from Chris Gore over at Film Threat, and I'm skeptical of that rumor. Obviously, you can look at Agatha all along. Jack Schaefer is still there. She is not afraid to talk about her agenda and her politics. So I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, they did bring back Robert Downey Jr. They got the Russo brothers back. So there's obviously, those are, I think, good signs. They got McFeely, I think it's McFeely, to be the writer on that. I think he's actually done some really good stuff. He only has like maybe one or two losers, but almost everything else has I think
everyone's going to get some flops.
High quality.
Getting a flop isn't a big deal, right? Everyone has those on their resume. You could look at any great producer, great writer, great actor, actress. They all have ones. Look at Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is still a fucking monster, but he has made 20 bad movies over the last 5
There's a reason for that though, right?
He went bankrupt and he just said yes. He quite literally went the Jim Carrey route and was just yes-manning every single role. And you know what though? I give him credit. They were terrible movies, but Nick Cage played the shit out of all those movies. He
elevates them.
He was spectacular.
Better.
He plays in some fun stuff, man. I just watched Mandy not too long ago, and that's a ridiculous movie, but I enjoyed it.
Like there's
my favorite film is Con Air. I mean,
it's so good. It's so bad it's good. But it's like the thing is with those movies too, like we all look back at the cult classics that weren't great at the beginning. Someone is going to sell the Nicolas Cage Broke collection, and it's going to be all the movies he did to crawl out. And we will someone should go on YouTube and just marathon the Nicolas Cage Broke collection and just make that. That would be like one of the most.
Surprised there isn't like a Nicolas Cage streaming channel where you just watch Nicolas Cage movies.
Probably is. There probably is.
That should be
probably on Pluto or something.
Be our background, the Nicolas Cage heads. I loved like the cartoon Cage heads. Like that was my background for my phone. And I think my computer forever. My wife was like, these are hurting my eyes. Can you please change your background? And I eventually agreed. But
yeah, so McFeely, he did all three of the Chronicles of Narnia movies.
Okay. So he likes God.
He also did, so he did Thor: The Dark World. He did that one, but then he did Winter Soldier. He did the Agent Carter series, which from everything I haven't watched that, but everyone I've talked to says it's good.
Yeah.
He did Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, and then he did that Gray Man movie on Netflix with the Russo brothers. So,
I mean, again, like you said, but most of his stuff is pretty good there, so it does give you faith. Now, how do you feel about RDJ coming back as Doctor Doom?
So WDW Pro claims that it's all misdirection, and he's actually going to be Tony Stark and Iron Man again eventually. But I don't know. It just seems weird to me for him to come back as like the main villain rather than returning as like an alternate universe Tony Stark or whatever. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, I think, to see that. Obviously, they did have that recent run. I guess it's not even recent anymore. Infamous Iron Man. I don't know. I feel like that was like a decade ago now, where you did have Victor Von Doom as Iron Man. So there's a possibility to play with some of that stuff there. Obviously, Downey is a big name. People like him. He's got a ton of charisma. We'll see how well he plays Doctor Doom. But again, there is a possibility that it's all kind of a misdirection and he's really coming back as Tony Stark eventually.
I hope it is, because you don't have a proper Fantastic Four. Like Victor Von Doom without a proper Fantastic Four is not Doom, right? Because it's like part of the fun was watching Doom, who's a freaking genius, go to battle with Mr. Fantastic Reed Richards, and it was as much of an intellect battle with all the fucking Doom bots. The guy created robots and has a country. Like, he's a political leader, a absolute genius, and a incredibly powerful being. I think he's Omega level, like at some points. So it's like,
he becomes a god in Secret Wars.
Exactly. So it's like, and he's amazing. So like, without a Fantastic Four to kind of like level that out. And again, people forget all four of the Fantastic Four were scientists and astronauts. So it's like they play off like Johnny Storm's kind of an idiot. Johnny Storm is a fucking smart guy. Like, he's a goofball, but they're all astronauts and scientists that were in space to do research, along with Victor Von Doom, who was on their team. So to not have them there, and then to give me the female Shala Bal Silver Surfer, who is my favorite character in Marvel, makes me want to freaking puke.
Norrin Rad you mean, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah. You mean Norrin Rad's your favorite character?
Well, no, that's Silver Surfer, not the new.
We're making sure.
Yeah, no. Norrin Rad is my favorite character. His whole story is amazing. No, not the chick Silver Surfer. To the Gur.
Yeah, well, the thing is, RDJ is
Dr.
girlfriend.
Girlfriend.
RDJ as Doctor Doom is just straight up desperation because they lost Jonathan Majors as Kang. They had everything planned for Kang. They're not going to be able to write for Doctor Doom. RDJ is just to bring in money for people that like him. I just don't have any hope that they can write a competent Fantastic Four and a competent Doctor Doom.
They might have been saving themselves.
I don't think so. I don't trust them at all to be able to save themselves.
I don't think Kang was going anywhere. I don't think Kang was an interesting enough character to be a big bad. Because
he got defeated multiple times. He wasn't at all.
Not even that. He's really just not that great. He's not an amazing villain. He's good in the comics and some of his arcs, but he's no Thanos. He's no Galactus. He's not at their level.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Big bad at all.
Wanted to go in a Doctor Doom direction. They were never planning to go in a Doctor Doom direction. At least not soon. And I don't think they have any kind of talent to make this kind of real crash course into writing a good story with him and Fantastic Four. I just don't think it's going to work.
I mean, it was obvious they were going into the Marvel Now. They were literally just going to start adapting all those Marvel Now comics from 2013, where you saw like the super woke push in the comics, and that's what they were doing. And then they did that all through Phase 4. I guess we're in 5. I don't know. Are we in 5 now?
I think we're in 5. Well, Kang was supposed to be 5, but I think they're closing out 5 because Kang's gone. I think there's going to be a new phase, or they're ending phases. I think they're just like, number one, going in phases was fucking stupid anyway. Okay, give me storylines and give me movies that are good and shut the fuck up. Like, stop. Like, I hate this whole thing that they're trying to do anime arcs. They're not anime arcs.
I agree. I think they kind of lost the plot on some of that as well, because if you go back and you watch like a lot of the other, like the movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sure that they're all kind of connected and they lead up to Thanos and everything, but they all are standalone movies, right? There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. There's a climax, and then you have like the stinger at the end where it's like, okay, there's something else happening in the background, in the post-credit, mid-credit scene, whatever it happens to be. But for the most part, I mean, all of those films, especially those first four, they're all kind of origin films of their characters. They are all like, I mean, that first Thor film, I know a lot of people kind of maybe give it a hard time, but I think that's one of the best films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because of Thor's character arc and all of the stuff that he goes through. His pride, he's stripped of his pride. He's literally falls to earth and everything, and he has to like learn how to be a good person basically and be worthy of the hammer.
It felt like the comics, the original origin story. Like it was very close to the origin story. And I think a big part of, like you said, they lost the plot because after a certain while, every single movie was an Avengers movie. It wasn't.
Well, no, Guardians hurt Marvel. Guardians did well for them. But the fact that people loved Guardians, everyone started to write like Guardians, and it really fucking hurt.
It came between that, all the nonstop, unnecessary one-quip comedy, but also you couldn't just, if you were watching Thor, you knew you were going to get like 6 more superheroes in there. It wasn't just going to be Thor. Or if you were watching, Spider-Man, Iron Man was going to be involved. And you were not just getting the standalones. And like you said, John, you watched that story. And then at the end, maybe they gave you an Easter egg or they had, the famous after credit clips. And it just became so convoluted and watered down that basically I think Falcon and Winter Soldier perfectly was exactly what every Marvel movie was at that point. Shitty plot, some fun action, like the choreography was pretty good, but you forgot
the TV show.
Yeah, the TV show. But you just forgot there was even a plot there. Oh, it was. Listen, it was.
You need to do.
When
better,
I started
Senator.
tuning out.
Oh, no, that's fine. It was. The bad.
I know that they were aiding. They were literally aiding the terrorists.
The bad guys are good guys, and we need to make the terrorists feel good about themselves. Then they're not bad at all because they're terrorists. It was so. And then Anthony Mackie gave us. Told us we were all racist, basically.
So for some reason, Falcon can't get a loan or something because
they
turned Agent 13 into the broker or whatever. The villain. Like, really?
Oh my god, it was absolutely embarrassing. All right, so let's continue to something more embarrassing. Dave, pull up Rings of Power here. So
I know you were only continuing that conversation because you didn't want to get to this.
No. Yeah, let's talk about how wrong they continue to get everything.
It's on purpose. It's obvious. It's on purpose. These like Patrick McKay and JD Payne have read The Lord of the Rings. They know what this stuff is. I think they've read the Silmarillion. They know the source material. They've probably read the histories of Middle Earth. They've probably read the untold stories. They know all of this stuff. They're doing this on purpose. I mean, it's hard for me to not say that anymore, or not see that. It's so done on purpose. You listen to all these interviews, you watch them, you read these interviews. They clearly know the lore, but they are just doing all of this stuff on purpose. And again, it goes back to what Isaac Young says. They do it on purpose to push their own political agenda, and this is clearly a prime example of that.
Yep. They should end this whole series when they finally get over with the final thing is Gandalf waking up and going, "What the fuck was that nightmare?"
No. They have the perfect ending. Tolkien has the perfect ending already. It's literally the flood wipes them all out.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
No, Alex, did I not tell you they actually call him a grand elf?
Yeah, they call him Grand Elf.
Yeah, no, I usually give him updates to make him hurt, but I forgot to tell him.
The thing is, John, I tried to hate watching the first episode, and I fell asleep 3 times. Like it is not even that. It's the fact that it's not.
You didn't like the black spaghetti monster that was acting like
he means the first episode of the first season
down the mountain.
First episode of the first season.
He didn't even see.
I didn't
know. Season 2, episode 1. Sauron is a black spaghetti monster. Slinking down the side of a mountain. It is awful.
Because he gets jumped by a couple of orcs, not even a lot of orcs.
Yes, the all-powerful necromancer, servant of fucking Melkor, is going to be subdued by people who beings. Well, I guess they're people now because they have kids and families, right? Fucking hate these people. But anyway, so
I'm fine with them having kids. They do procreate. I think Tolkien does have that. The whole idea about them having like these families is utterly ridiculous. They probably engage in violent crime as how they reproduce.
They are a very savage group. So all right. So the showrunner compared the destruction of Khazad-dûm to climate change. So hurt me some more, John. What the fuck?
Yeah. Dude, he's just pushing an agenda. It's hard for me to even contemplate where this even comes from. I mean, the only thing I could think of, I did a video on this earlier today, and the only thing I could think of is the Balrog is fire, so it's global warming, and it's warming up the that's where he got this. That's the I'm trying to put my put myself in his shoes, and that's the only thing I can think of. He's like, oh, it's a giant fire. It was warming up Moria. That's how it destroyed them.
and the thing that drives me crazy is like you said, they've read the book. So, and anyone that's read all the lore knows what the Balrog is. So when Gandalf the Grey stood up to the Balrog and sacrificed himself, that's how the nerds understood how fucking epic that moment was, because Gandalf had no business standing up to the Balrog, had no business being there.
You're bringing that up. Also in the finale, old Durin goes one-on-one with the Balrog, and it causes a collapse of the cave, and then the Balrog goes back to sleep. He sacrifices himself.
Just ignoring appendices that actually write about this. Which you go into in the article.
I do want to say real quick, the first part of this sentence I think is fine. This is a thing where how do societies fall? Usually it's gradually and then all at once.
Yes.
That's okay. That's fine. I can even agree with that. But then he just says if you want to use climate change as a metaphor, climate change is not an event. It's a process that ebbs and flows. That's always heading in a dark direction. How the fuck did you get there? You just stop right after the first part of that quote. You're good.
It's an agenda. He wanted to say it, so he needed to use some sort of preamble. And the thing, too, that drives me a little crazy. Go ahead, John.
That's actually something that Asmongold's been talking about on a lot of his recent videos. I don't know if you guys watch him, but he basically says that's what these people do. They say a truth, and then they just tell you what there's this giant lie that's part of their agenda.
It's a Mott and Bailey.
Try to accept everything else, but it's just so absurd.
It's the Mott and Bailey defense. You have the little truth with the lie, and then when they attack the lie, you run back and hide behind that little truth. You don't like this? You don't agree that societies fall gradually? What do you hate? Climate change? Shut the fuck up. We hate you. That's what we hate. We hate you. So, and the thing too is, they could have done this well because it's even in the lore. It didn't fall right away. It fell throughout the year, right? It
doesn't even fall in the second age.
It doesn't even fall in the second age. It falls in the third age. It has no business being in the second age, which again is so ridiculous. I think I might hate the Tolkien estate now more than I hate these people, though.
Yeah, Simon. It's Simon.
Simon's a piece of shit because once Christopher passed away, they were just let's make money because Chris held onto everything, and he forwarded the lore. And when he released, now how long has Children of Urine been out? Jesus, at least almost 15 years now. But when he released that was kind of, he revised his dad's works, and it came out beautifully. It felt like Tolkien, even down to the nauseating detail of Tolkien going on for 3 pages about a stick. But it's still Tolkien, and he's amazing. But it's and it's even more sad, though, like you said, the showrunners and creators, they know what they're doing. And I feel like that might be the worst part, is that at one point, they enjoyed this work as well, obviously, because they read it all. You don't read Tolkien, and you don't read everything Tolkien writes unless you truly like him, because he can be difficult. Silmarillion is an absolute fucking Bible. It is quite literally a Bible, and it is
especially the beginning. The beginning is very... can be very difficult, at least from what I remember when I was a kid, when I tried to originally try to read it.
I tried to read it in 7th grade, put it down because I just got done reading Lord of the Rings and Hobbit. I was like, I could take on Silmarillion, and I did, and I was like, who the fuck is Iluvatar, and what is he playing music for? I had no idea. And then there was the Anur and this, and I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, it took me a long time to get in there.
The Rings of Power story is much easier to read. The Beren and Luthien story is very easy to read. Yep. Once you get further in, and you get to some of those like specific short stories that he includes, that Christopher includes, those are a lot more palatable than kind of like the early stuff that's in the beginning of the book.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Once you get into more,
especially for kids. Like, because I think we probably had similar backgrounds here. I think Hobbit was like a signed reading for me in like 4th grade. So I was like, I'm going to go read the Silmarillion now before I even start the Lord of the Rings, because I want to start at the beginning, right? And it's like, oh no.
6th grade. It was introduced to me in 6th grade, The Hobbit. And then after The Hobbit, because some of us like liked it, but it was, Hobbit is like the childish version of the things like that with all the stuff, even though it is amazing. My 6th grade English teacher was a giant nerd for this. So he was like, for those that like it, let's get some excerpts of Lord of the Rings, and like introduced us to the Nazgul and stuff like that. And that's when I was like, fuck yeah. And I'm a slow reader. I'm not great at it. I sat there and dedicated my existence to finishing those 3 books. And it was great. And I don't regret any moment of it, except maybe now. I regret the fact that I enjoy the lore and I know enough of it to be hurt by this. It's so disturbing.
Yeah, actually, in this article, if you scroll down right there, you just kind of pass it. I do include what Isaac says about this stuff. I think he does a really good job. Here, Hollywood exists to reward its friends and punish its enemies, and its products are emblematic of that fact. Hollywood does not exist to entertain you. It is an organ of a greater international apparatus that has declared war on native populations of the West. And then he uses The Last Jedi as an example, making Luke Skywalker feed at its breast, and he has like that walrus creature that he's
that weird
milk
creature with udders. It's like, what are you doing? Why would Luke ever do that?
Luke, It was not a poor decision of a worse screenplay. It was a deliberate choice backed by corporate executives. I mean, it was directed, written, and shot by industry leaders, funded with the backing of millions of dollars, packaged in a movie called Star Wars, and subsequently broadcast to the entire Western sphere. And then here's the analogy that I kind of talked about earlier. Make no mistake, this was done with the same spite of a child ripping a toy out of a younger infant's hands and declaring it to be their own, and to make sure it would be their own by crapping all over it. So,
yeah, I mean, it is, again, like you said, and it's, there's only so much to be said at times, because it all goes back to the fact that this is ideologically driven. They're doing it intentional. But they continue to open up their mouths and give us more fodder to prove it, right? Like you have to have so much fun at times, like sitting there waking up in the morning and going, some idiot opened up their mouth, 3-4 of them, and I have a bunch of articles to write today. Your website
makes content a little easier.
It's the safest website on the planet right now, because you can get content every single day, whether it's from comics, general nerd stuff and movies, gaming. Like, you have content from everywhere, because all these people are morons and they tell you exactly what they're doing at all times. And, I listen to Glenn Beck, and he always says, he's like, if your enemy tells you they're going to do something, believe them. Do not give them the benefit of the doubt. And the thing is, we were all raised in a very liberal society, where in liberalism, you give charity to the other's argument. We can't do that anymore with these people. They are being very blunt and honest with what they want to do, and they are very blunt and honest with who they are. Like, they're not there's no mask. They're postmodernists. They're Marxists. They are trying to do these things intentionally. And I mean, but people like you who are writing these articles and giving the facts, giving the background, like, not just, I'm not knocking anybody specifically. I'm not saying, but there are some people that just go on and complain. We sometimes do that. We'll read an article, read it, and we just kind of give peripheral view, but you get into detail in a lot of your articles, give reasons, give some history, give some background. And I think that's what kind of sets you apart in that Park Place.
Yeah, I've always tried to kind of to do that. That's something that I do intentionally. Right. I try to kind of point out, like, hey, this is obviously not what they're talking about. It's not true. Here's what it actually is. And then obviously, depending on what it is, if they're talking about whatever agenda they're trying to push, I'll try and say, like, hey, this is why it's wrong. This is why it should be opposed. This is why we stand against this stuff. We have reasons why this stuff is wrong, why it's evil. It's not just because we've decided to call it woke. We do have a definition of, like, what that is. It is, as you kind of described, the postmodern liberalist ideology and all of those kind of tentacles that are part of that. Obviously, feminism, transgender ideology, identity,
critical theories, all the critical theories. Yep.
Yeah, so those are all there, and there's reasons why those things are wrong, and we have explanations on why they're wrong and why we oppose them. And I think a lot of people don't know that, so I try to include that.
And here's the thing, though, it's like there are a lot of great people, like I said, like yourself, and I'm going to give credit to James Lindsay and the Lotus Eaters and a lot of the people that have taken the time to break down some of these individuals in their own writing. A lot of the Frankfurt School people, a lot of the, your, like I mentioned, Derrida and Foucault and all that, breaking down the things they say and making them more layman, so we don't have to go back and read thousands of pages of this shit, and to kind of help people out and point them to specific spots and things like that. There's, I'm Herbert Marcuse. Control is quite literally the world we live in. Repressive tolerance is quite literally the world we're living in right now. But it's like, well, repressive tolerance is
too.
What is it?
Mixed with a little Brave New World, right?
A lot of Brave New World, Jesus Christ. But people don't want to go. And even though repressive tolerance is like a 2.5 to 3 page piece, maybe I don't even know, it's not that long. Asking someone to go and read it, they just rather bury their head in the sand. But someone like you comes along and it's like, hey, here's something that you enjoy pop culture wise. Here's what they're doing. Here's the receipts on why we know they're doing it. Is really good. And is this what you do? You said on your show, you're basically going on and you're kind of reviewing a lot of these articles and stuff.
Yeah, over on the Trent Report. Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I'll bring on people, like I just did an interview with Richard Fox last week, where he's a science fiction novelist, and he was removed from a panel at a convention that they had actually previously invited him to, because he decided to put on the pronoun. They had in order to confirm that you're going to be a speaker, they sent out a survey or whatever. And they have a pronoun section in the demographic start. So you put your name, all that other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And he wrote F off on that. And Richard's pretty based. And the convention decided. Someone complained, I guess, someone that works at the convention, obviously, because they're the only ones who would have gotten that response, was I feel unsafe now. And so they sent him some BS that he made someone feel unsafe, and they kicked him off the panel.
It's always one person that feels unsafe by words. Fuck the overwhelming majority that probably want to hear his opinion, right? Because, he's a science fiction writer. They know who he is. That one person makes a difference. So, but if you are too lazy to read, which I am sometimes, go to the Trent Report. And you could go www.youtube.com/@the-Trent-Report. That's real easy to do now. YouTube does a good job with that, actually. And you can go find this page, subscribe to that. Because, like you said, you'll go on there and you'll hear a bunch of that Park Place stuff and things like that, where John will go down and break that stuff down. So please go do all that. And so Dave, let's dive in to more pain. You mentioned Star Wars, John, because Isaac used it. And this is painful for me, not just because, again, I love Star Wars. Star Wars is something great. But also, it is one of the best modern characters of Star Wars. And I guess not super modern, because Timothy Zahn made him a little while ago. Then he's done a lot of updates lately.
It's not modern. He's pre-Disney.
This is very pre-Disney. So they're going to fuck Zahn up, aren't they? Some more than they already have. Not Zahn, I mean Thrawn. Thrawn.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit before the show, and you said that you didn't watch Ahsoka. Well, they've already this character's already been ruined.
Yes.
If you watched any of the Star Wars Rebels shows, you know that he is completely incompetent. He gets bested by a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
He's completely made to look like the fool at pretty much every turn. He has this veneer of thinking that he is smarter than them, but he literally loses all of the time. He pretty much never wins. And when he does seemingly have them trapped in they're basically done, they find some way to get out of it, which is just, they don't understand how to write good villains anymore. And that's one of the things that I think that why Infinity War was so good, why Empire Strikes Back is so well loved, is that these villains are serious characters, and they win. They do win. They do deliver significant blows to you. They do lots of damage, and he's obviously Thanos. He snaps his fingers, right, and he wins. And then obviously Vader literally ices Han Solo. Luke has lost an arm. Like it's doesn't look good. Like the rebellion is on the brink. Their heroes are on the run, and the Empire has struck back. So they did not do that with Thrawn here, and Ahsoka makes him even worse. He makes he's so stupid. He's literally, the character is dumb. The character is just utterly stupid.
Good thing I didn't watch
all of the wrong decisions. His decisions make absolutely no sense. They're completely contradicted. Like minutes after he's talking about some grand decision, it's awful. It's awful. That show is terrible.
It's bothersome too, because I highly recommend to go back and read, I think there's 9 Thrawn books that Timothy Zahn wrote. Go back and read every single one, because they are incredible. Timothy Zahn is gifted as a writer. And one of the things that disturbs me the most, and I've said this before, Dave has heard me complain about it so much, all Disney had to do was just go and get the incredibly talented writers in a bunch of the expanded universe that are just so good at what they do and brought so many characters to life. Continued the story of Luke, where the Yuuzhan Vong War was incredible, and Jason Solo and the whole entire arc. They did Darth Kaitis and he becomes that. They did so many good things that all Disney had to do was go, hey, can you come here and help us make those into screenplays? They didn't have to do all this Kylo Ren bullshit where they made a poor man's Jason Solo out of him. That's all they were trying to do. They took away Ben Skywalker, who was amazing. Jason had a twin sister who was one of the best fucking Jedi basically in history by the end of it. They have so much going for it, and Thrawn is one of those individuals that they have going for it. And like you said, he has such a cunning and a masterful mind where you're reading these books and he's not taking losses. Whenever he takes a loss in the books, there's a overarching scheme that has a payoff later. He
turns it into the win, right?
Turns it into the win. He'll let somebody go intentionally. He thinks he's quite literally playing chess to checkers with everyone. And Timothy's on.
Yeah, it's I don't know how familiar you are with Alexander the Great's military tactics, but one of the things that he would do is he would basically depress one of his center, and so the enemy would kind of storm in, and then he would just flank them.
Which was a very much a tactic a lot of the Chinese generals used during the Warring States periods and things like that. That was it was a classic tactic, and Alexander the Great. I don't know. I think he predated that, possibly. I don't know. I have to check my history on when the unification of China versus Alexander the Great. But yeah, no, and it's Thrawn was great for doing those things, and the fact that Zahn drove into number one, he did 3 different times with Thrawn. The first 3 books you get introduced, he's continuing the Empire, cleaning it up on the Outer Rim and bringing it back, and believable as the next guy to lead it through. Right? Then you go back to when he started off and they kind of found him, and he was as a general and why he was at the Outer Rim to begin with. And then he comes back and he gives you why he got exiled from the Chiss, which is his original.
Disney. That's the Disney stuff, right?
But Timothy Zahn still wrote it, and it was actually still Thrawn Ascendancy in that series was really well done because all the Chiss stuff was really good too. And
I think it's selling better than the High Republic stuff.
The High Republic stuff was balls. It was absolutely terrible. They sat there and they were like, "Hey, if we just put Republic in it, maybe people will think it's the old Republic." It sucked. It was not good. The Jedi were not believable as good as talented.
They had a rock as a pilot. It was so literal rock.
Real quick, Alex, you're talking, all this praise for Timothy Zahn, which he deserves. But do you share the sentiment of trusting Filoni to get it right?
No.
You don't? Why not?
Because Filoni's a retard. Because I think here's the thing. Filoni, even with all of his praise, did a lot wrong in Clone Wars and Rebels. the overarching of it was fine. Ahsoka built into a really good character. You saw depth of Anakin and the relationship with Anakin and Obi-Wan, but that was awesome. And Rebels, you gave me Kanan Jarrus. That's probably my favorite Jedi, which is probably like the Kanan Jarrus story is awesome. But there's a lot wrong in both of those. Filoni fucks with a ton of lore and throughout all of it. There's a lot of head scratching shit that goes on in all of it. So no, I don't trust Filoni to do anything well. While he had good hits and he has memorable moments, he ultimately sucks. He's not a great Star Wars guy.
Like how you have that opinion without watching the Ahsoka series. Make it even
obviously
worse.
Correct.
Yeah, I was like, if you watch the Ahsoka series, like everything what you just said proven true.
And again, like there's highs with Filoni and there's lows, and the highs are pretty memorable. Like he has some really good moments in Clone Wars, some really good scenes, some battles, things like that. And one thing I do give him credit for,
I like those like mini movies that he made at the beginning of the seasons. Like the first one is actually like where they escape Lothal or whatever.
Yep.
I thought that was actually like a really well done story.
The most memorable parts were the relationship building and the character development. Like he actually did those parts pretty well. Now, again, when it comes to lore, he didn't give a shit. Like he honestly doesn't care about Star Wars lore. He's trying to create a good story. But the thing is,
no, he said this. He said that in interviews. I mean, the reason why I brought this up again in the pre-show was Rosario Dawson is the one who had to tell him, like, no, Ahsoka needs, like, the blue eyes. Like, give me the contacts. Because Filoni was like, nah, it doesn't matter. Like, this is a different version of Ahsoka. Like, it's fine or whatever. It's like, what are you talking about? Stop it.
I almost respect that in a way that Filoni's like, fuck it. We'll do it live. Like he's Bill O'Reillying it. Yeah. And, I almost can respect that because like he's had success before doing it. So why not? And in a different time, it might work, right? Because Clone Wars and Rebels are now, 15 years old, 20 years old almost. Long time ago. So they're really old at this point. So it's like, then you did get that grace of it still kind of felt like Star Wars. So it was okay. Now, if it's not Star Wars, you're fucked because there's enough of us on the internet that are going to rip you to shreds. So, well, I mean,
I think the big issue, because the eyes wouldn't have mattered as much if she wasn't just standing around crossing her arms and talking for most of the fucking series. Like these little things do matter to people, but usually if they're at least decent, you can be like, okay, well, that's annoying, but at least there's fun in it.
Just the overarching story was just stupid, too. Yeah. So, and then like you have like the dumb like
Sabine
somersault that she does in space, the like surviving the being impaled by a lightsaber. Yes.
No. Qui-Gon Jinn is just a giant pussy. That's all we've learned from all this. Qui-Gon is just a bitch. That, when your insides get burned up to a crisp to the point where they don't exist anymore because that's how hot lightsabers are. Apparently, it's easily survivable. And Qui-Gon's a bitch.
This is how stupid Thrawn is in the show. So at one point, there's like a convoy of like these, like, I don't know what they're called, like these little alien creatures that are like crabs or something. And they're driving across this like plane or whatever, and Thrawn basically orders his gunships to attack them, and instead of just shooting them from the sky in the gunships, they literally land like a squad of stormtroopers to like attack them on the ground. That's how stupid this show was. Like it's terrible.
Oh my God,
embarrassing, man.
I mean, but at this point, it's like, number one, I hope they keep doing it because your page will continue to flourish. Like, here's the thing. I feel like your page will flourish regardless because I don't think that place was always just meant to shit on everyone. If they do good things and they start writing good stuff, I'm pretty sure you'd be pretty happy to write some articles about the positives that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, we do that sometimes. Obviously, Dragon Ball, we did one today. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero had really good numbers, over 90,000 players playing just in early access.
Yeah,
so that's not even
before it actually out.
That's not even before it hit. So
apparently,
like
Azaro Vegeta is unbeatable and is
Great Ape Vegeta. Great Ape Vegeta is insane.
I've seen so many clips on Reels.
Well, that's the thing. I remember older games having a hard as fuck Great Ape Vegeta anyway. Like, this is normal, actually.
I'm thoroughly excited, and I hope I get some good reviews from you for Dragon Ball Daima because I think Daima is going to be absolutely incredible.
I don't usually do reviews, but we'll see. We'll see. It's definitely a risky endeavor going into this demon realm, and then de-aging Goku, having like the mini Goku. But I am interested in seeing him have his staff again. It looks like there could be some fun stuff happening there.
I'm cool with everyone being chibi, though. That's the thing. Everyone going young gives it a different element. It's not like GT where he was young and it was awkward. The fact that everyone's young now, it's kind of cool. Like watching little green Piccolo just running around looking like, I think it's like you said, it's a ballsy move, but in Akira, I trust, rest in peace, Akira Toriyama. And the fact that, his son Sasuke is heavily involved and Toyotaro is heavily involved as well. It leads to a lot of, me having faith in the fact that it's at least going to feel like Dragon Ball. And that's all I want.
It also looks like they're getting away from the kind of like power scaling that the series got trapped in, I feel like. So that could be fun too. So, because he looks like, obviously Goku isn't like Super Saiyan, whatever number he's at now.
You see him. Maybe you can see him go Super Saiyan once in the preview, and and again, it's cool. But it's like that's going to be awesome if that's the payoff. It's like, hey, with this, we lose some of our strength. So this is the ultimate form I can get to and muster. Like that could be. And with the way they've done some Super Saiyan transformations in the movies, it makes it look like it's really difficult. Like in Dragon Ball Broly, Super Saiyan looked hard to do, and it's like, wait a minute, they quite literally just blink and the aura happens in the shows. So it does look cool sometimes when they make it have a payoff. So
I mean, Frieza Saga, I feel like there's 2 episodes of him just powering up to Super Saiyan.
Which outside of David's favorite voice actor being Kid Gohan,
that was specifically Kai. Dragon Ball Kai.
Kai did a good job. Kai did a good job with cutting out a lot of that.
Making it move. I'm just saying the Kid
David's
Gohan
favorite voice actor was Kid Gohan.
Shit,
he couldn't watch.
I couldn't stand it. He sounded terrible.
So obviously, I grew up watching it on Toonami on Cartoon Network and everything.
Yep.
And so obviously listening to dubs. But and when I heard the actual subs, I was like in the Goku voice. I'm just
but it's so good. It's so much better.
Dude, it's so jarring though. It's jarring.
It's jarring, but now that I'm used to it, and now that I'm just a giant weeb that enjoys subs more than anything, just hearing the original. And the thing is too, it's Sean Schemmel's definitely grown into the part, and Sabat's everyone else, basically. Yeah. But it's there's not many American voice actors that it seems like they take it as serious as the Seiyu over in Japan do. So it's when they're doing it, they are into it. You feel what's going on. The dubs, some of them are fucking lazy. You could just see some of them are going through the motions. So it's I'm not accusing Sean Schemmel that I think he's growing into himself as a Goku. There's some other Gokus I prefer, but still he is the Goku right now. But it's I don't know. There's something about those subs that hit. That are just different. I'm so good.
I'm usually a sub guy, but just the Dragon Ball is probably the one where I'm just that's what I
basically
grew up with, and so I just kind of stick with the dub.
We grew up with
with everything else, it's sub all the way, but Dragon Ball is probably the only one. And I definitely get what you're saying about, especially when I My Hero Academia stuff. I mean, the All Might dude in the sub is just so much better.
Yeah, they tap into completely different emotions in their voices when it gets to Japanese VAs.
They're also praised. That's the thing. Your Japanese voice actors are celebrities. They are there. Everybody knows who they are. They are popular. It's just being an actor or actress here. Where here, if you're a Dragon Ball nerd, you know who Sean Schemmel is. We know who he is because we like it. But Sean Schemmel can walk all up and down the street and nobody's going to know who the fuck he is. No one's going to know where, if Masako Nozawa walks up and she has to have a bodyguard because she's Goku. She's Goku and she's Gohan.
Wow. Rest in peace.
Well, yes, rest in peace. But she's Goku.
Yeah.
In the end, so everybody knew who she was. So it's there is that major difference. So maybe if we started elevating our voice actors, they may give us a little more effort. So
they're getting replaced by the Hollywood actor.
100%. It's not looking good for him. Looking good for him at all.
No, it isn't. All right. So last thing I want to get to, we appreciate you giving us our time. We're a little bit over an hour now. I want to let you get out of here soon. But let's talk about the juggernaut that was Ubisoft, because Ubisoft's fucked right now. It just came out. They laid off like 8,000 more people, or plan to lay off 8,000 more people. And
that's a speculation by Insider Gaming's Tom Henderson.
So, and you know what though? Where there's smoke, there's fire. Would we be surprised if they lay off that? Like, honestly,
they're going to have to like make significant cuts. I think that's very clear. No matter what happens, like they cannot be absorbing the losses that they're absorbing. And
their hands may be forced, because we covered their bunch of their workers in France for the return to work that just didn't want to do it. So it's like, if you don't want to return to work, fuck off. So it's like they might, like, their hands may be forced as well to lay off a ton of people that just don't want to return to work. So
was that this week? I forget, when is that supposed to take place? Was that this week? Or is that
can't remember right
November?
Now.
I don't remember. I think it.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, when either this week, or I think it might be next week.
Okay.
I think it may be next week. Which, again, if a bunch of
October 15, 16, and 17. So yeah.
So
next week.
If a bunch of people don't return to work, there's those 8,000 layoffs right there. You don't come in, you're gone. Like,
well, I think that's also. I've talked about this previously. I think that's done on purpose, right? They want these people to do this, so it makes it easier to kind of like get them to either resign, so they don't have to pay them any kind of severance or anything like that. Whatever kind of government, I don't know what the government benefits from France and all that stuff that you might have to get. I don't know what they've got over there. So maybe trying to get out of a lot of that stuff. And that's the reason why they're doing this kind of come back into the office policy.
Yeah. So I'm curious, actually, though. This is a little off topic. Nate, you have piqued me. What is Long Island Vegeta? David, should we know this? John, do you know
I don't know it.
David, please look up Long Island Vegeta. I don't know what the fuck that is, but I'm now intrigued. Thank you, Nate, for.
I might have to be for the after show.
Might have to be for the after show, but we'll get back to this. So, Ubisoft. Now it's rumored that Tencent may be buying it. Tencent does already own some of it, if I'm correct, right? They already have partial ownership.
Yeah, I think
now they may be taking over.
Between Tencent and the Guillemot family, I think they own around 30%.
So if Tencent takes it over, do they have a chance at coming back to life?
Yeah, I think Endymion actually has a really good video on this. He talks about how basically they're killing the company so they can resuscitate it, and then they'll start basically clean house. And the company's already kind of devalued as it is, so they're getting it on the cheap, and then they can have it going back to churning out the things that they want to churn it out, but now they're in control, right? So I definitely think that is a possibility, and I think that's a very likely possibility. This is kind of how we've seen China operate in the past. They had these, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but they used to do something called dumping, where you would basically just flood the market with really cheap goods and basically drive out your competitors that cannot match those costs, and they're being subsidized by obviously the government. And so then the competitors are run out of business, and China buys them up, and they control the market now. And
it's like real life shorting. It's like real life shorting everybody else. Like you just lowball everyone and then eat it up. So yeah, it makes sense because they're capable of doing that with all their child and slave labor, basically, with producing all these cheap goods. Now, is there any concern that even if Ubisoft comes back, we will now be supporting China even more? Like if they start making some decent games again, like the thing is, China's smart. The first thing they'll do is they'll announce a new Rayman, and they'll make a really good Rayman, and then they'll get goodwill again. Like,
I mean, it's hard to escape not purchasing anything from China, right? So
that's true.
I mean, they own Funcom, they have their hands in Riot, they are partial owners of like so many video game companies. They're doing a lot of I think they probably own a bunch of they're part of like the Japanese anime as well. Because a lot of that animation now gets outsourced to China and things like that. And then obviously they were funding a lot of Hollywood stuff, but I think that has obviously dried up because they were able to basically start their own industry in China now. So they got all the tech, they got all the stuff that they wanted, and then they kind of were like, no, we don't need this anymore. And they basically iced out a lot of Hollywood studios from their markets as well.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's almost inevitable that we'll be giving money to China, but it's like when I knowingly don't have to do it. Like there's a difference between the things I'm looking at as like an everyday purchase, but then it's like this one, it's like constantly supporting Tencent. Like, and like you said, like every single company is the Chinese government in China. Like that is how they do it. You're not a company without being a part of the government in some way. There's a government individual that sits in your fucking office to make sure you are following CCP guidelines. Like that's not a secret. Yeah, and Razorfist is big on hating Tencent.
He did a video like 2 weeks ago, I guess, around about 2 weeks ago, and he basically says there's like over like 100, maybe even more, of CCP officials like in the Tencent offices. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And what's crazy is too, like something like that, like if Tencent does, purchase Ubisoft, that means that any Ubisoft company headquarters is going to have a CCP official sitting in it. So if Ubisoft, I know there's one in Canada, right? The Ubisoft, is that one of their
Montreal? Yeah,
Montreal. I wouldn't be surprised they try to move on to like San Francisco, and so they can have like a CCP member there. Like that's, I think
they have an office in San Francisco.
So there we go, and that's kind of crazy to think like they don't have to actually have government spies. They just need to have a company that works in this country and by their own standards. Like, what are we going to do? Have an international incident when we say no, fuck off? Which I would personally, and I hope that if the Donald comes back, he makes a mandate. It's like, I don't care if the CCP owns this company. No CCP officials in anywhere that's not in an official capacity working with the government, like meeting with us, period.
You think it would be pretty common sense that you would not allow foreign entities to own your own businesses that operate in your country, specifically when it's like tech businesses and things like that, right?
100%.
I mean, there is that positive. No more Black Samurai that's involved.
Well, there's a rumor that they're the ones who were behind a lot of that. So
I wouldn't be surprised to drive the value down, but also seeing how just naturally crazy a lot of these ideologues are, it's also, they don't necessarily need to do a lot.
And I think that goes back to the fact that you can have two things can be true at once, right? You can have China influencing it, and then you also have the woke ideologues wanting it as well.
Mm-hmm. And and I don't even know if it's always necessarily to drive it down. That's probably part of it. But also the fact that China's ultimate goal too is to weaken us, right? They want to become the superpower. So what better way to continue to get the division amongst Americans by making them argue over a video game and if this Black Samurai was a samurai or a retainer? Like let us fucking argue for months about whether or not this guy was actually a samurai or a retainer that was basically a plaything for fucking what was it, Nobunaga or whatever it is, Nobunaga?
Yeah, Oda Nobunaga,
yeah. So it's like whether or not he was like, that's what we've been debating on the internet for now months. What Yasuke was, where hilariously they made Yasuke a pretty badass motherfucker in a Netflix anime, which actually had some pretty good action and it was a decent story. Nobody cared about that. Nobody gave a shit about that anime.
Because they knew it was fiction, right? They weren't trying to sell it off as historically accurate.
Yep.
They're historically accurate until they don't want to be, basically, is what they've said. Like, we strive to be historically accurate until we don't want to be. And then fuck off. Forget that we said that. Oh, man. So what are the chances that Ubisoft survives? Do you think Tencent buys them? And are they hoping that like everything else they do bombs so they get even cheaper and then Tencent buys them?
No, I think what was likely going to happen is kind of what AJ Investments has said, which is this Slovakian investment firm that has a minority stake in Ubisoft, and they've asked the company to actually go private. So I think what you'll end up seeing is Tencent will collaborate with the Guillemot family. They will take the company private. I think that is likely what will happen because we've seen AJ has said that they basically have gathered support from 10% of the stakeholders, and it's likely that they will get more, and that they've also threatened to use some kind of French law that forces the company to sell because they're harming a lot of these minority stakeholders. Yeah. So I'm not super familiar with that law or anything like that. I just know that that's kind of something that they stated in their open letter. So I think that is probably the likely possibility, just given what we've seen. It does not look like they're going to be able to survive this. I don't think it's looking really, really bad. We'll obviously find out a lot more here at the end of the month when they have their half year earnings call and report.
Well, I mean, we just got to look forward to Valentine's Day next year for Shadows to come and save the day. So, and the one thing is,
if it doesn't get delayed even further,
listen, they're not going to delay it past Black History Month because there's a reason why it flopped. A bunch of racists in the West they didn't buy it. That's it. So, and the thing is too, for people to understand, 10% in a company like Ubisoft is not a small number. That's actually a very much moving the needle type of number. If you get 10% in a traded company like they are, and a pretty majorly traded company, that's a big power, and it moves a lot, and it has a lot of force. So
and it's multiple investors, right? So I think AJ has like less than 1% of Ubisoft themselves, and so they've obviously reached out to a lot of these other minority investors, and they've gathered around 10%, and I think they said that they could probably get a lot more and really kind of force Ubisoft to go their way. So there's clearly a hostile move happening here.
So and we'll see what happens. I think that might happen regardless of if Shadows is successful or not, which it's not going to be.
It's
outside like they'll get a base, they'll get their fanboys to buy it, and they know they have a base there. But
it's going to be like Outlaws though, right? 1 million when they expected to have 5 million. It's going to be really, really bad.
And it's going to be bad. The fact that they said, hey, all the pre-sales are going to be refunded. That's bad. That's really bad.
And then what do they give? They're giving them like an expansion pack, like
the DLC.
They're giving them, and that is like that's part of their main money makers is selling those. The fact that they're giving it away, and it's like, please buy our game.
I do find it funny that
shows that that's all a money grab.
Yes,
100%. Right?
Yeah, because that was already content that was in the game that they cut out to make DLC. Yep. But I find it funny that when we talk about Ubisoft's downfall, we're bringing up Outlaws and we're bringing up Shadows, warranted 100%. No one brings up Skull and Bones, which is supposed to be quadruple A gaming, supposed to be huge. It's a damn pirate game. Sea of Thieves is still fucking chugging along just fine. You would think if it was any good, people would still play it, but it was that much of a disaster. It was that bad.
AAA games.
They released it to Steam. Like, when did they release it to Steam here? They released it in August. So just about 2 months ago. Yeah. And I'm looking at the charts right here, and it only hit a peak of 2,600. Oh, so basically did just 3 times the amount of Concord.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And
there's only 225 people playing right now, and it's like peak playing time right now, like 10:30. Yeah. 401 in the last 24 hours. So like it's literally dead. It's the game is dead.
That's the thing, because Concord, I think, is by far the worst gaming decision that we've actually seen in history. Skull and Bones doesn't get talked about for good reason, but like it's bad, man. Like that's really fucking bad.
I love that we're gonna base everything on like, all right, this is like 10 times a Concord. This is 3 times a Concord. Like that reminds me of like That reminds me of Dragon Ball Bridge when it's like there are 3 Raditz. They're kind of but it's like that's a great percentage. That has to be the percentage that we have to judge like all games by. Like when like someone like Astrobot's like, oh, this is 40 Concords. Like
people do that with they do that with Godzilla -1, but it's like they spent how much that you could have made 20 Godzilla -1s on this budget.
Godzilla -1 is a gold mine. Like it's
so good.
What they did. You watched it. Would you watch it 3 times, Dave? At least
I think I've watched it twice or 3 times, and I watched the black and white as well, which is also a fantastic rendition of that movie. I love it.
And the thing is, too, like, it's an art form because it's actually really hard to make a movie with how cheap they made it. Like, it's difficult to not
12 million?
It was 14, I think, at the most. 12
it was speculated to be like 14, 15, and the director said he wishes he had that. So I think it was actually 13 or 12.
So, like, $12 million is pocket change to make a movie right now. So it's like difficult to make a movie for that money, and to do it well is even better. So it's like, I hope that they just don't get like major Hollywood studios with like the next stuff that they do. Like keep it cheap.
He was at Lucasfilm after the it did so well. So we'll see.
Yeah. Don't you gotta bring it down at the end, John. So John, we appreciate you.
He's like Star Wars. Maybe he can actually do something that'll be interesting and unique. Who knows?
Maybe he can. Maybe. See, now you're bringing it back to hope. I like it. So, John, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Once again, he's John Trent, editor-in-chief of That Park Place. And talk about Stock Car Report. You're a racing fan?
Yeah, stock car racing. I follow a lot of Super Dirt late models. Is probably my favorite thing to watch. Lucas Oil and the World of Outlaws. Obviously, season's coming to an end here, but that I've really got kind of hooked on those about a year or so ago, and watch every race I possibly can.
That's awesome.
But I also like to watch a lot of short track asphalt racing. So I don't know where you guys are, if you guys are on Long Island.
I don't watch any racing. I'm not going to
lie. I'm in New York, but I'm in like the Hudson Valley area.
Okay, there is a track at the end of Long Island, I think, called Riverside or something like that, where they have some really good modified racing and stuff like that. So yeah, I do that. It's a lot of fun. Not as consistent as I'd like to be, just with time and family and stuff.
You're doing a lot, though.
I was trying to do an article a day, and I've really lapsed on that, but I got to get back to it and hopefully do that. And I have a YouTube channel where I kind of cover that stuff over there too. So,
yep, and I'll put it at the bottom again. It's if you go at youtube.com/@JohnTrentRacing. There you go. You'll find him, so you could hear about any content. Do you like NASCAR at all, or NASCAR is not your thing?
Yeah, I like NASCAR. I mean, I got my Mark Martin, old school Mark Martin bumper sticker. Like, I mean, this is probably before I was even born. When he was in that car, like I might have been like 2 or something.
That's awesome.
So, I watched. I grew up watching a lot of the old school NASCAR stuff in the '90s when it was at its peak. Obviously, a big Mark Martin fan. I still watch some of this stuff today, mainly because it's like.
When Bobby Labonte came in as the bad boy to Terry being like the good guy, like that's where you were there, and then Jeff Burton coming in with the XI just being a tiny jerk all the time. Yeah, I was right there with you in the '90s.
Gotta love those boys from Virginia. Those are my people.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
South Boston.
If you do, eventually our friends may get back to doing their own podcast, Tight on Entry. It's a NASCAR podcast where they kind of talk about that stuff. So if they do, we'll hook you up. Maybe you could jump on there and talk racing with them.
Yeah, I definitely do cover NASCAR stuff too. I try and watch the NASCAR races. Sometimes, obviously, schedule doesn't work and things like I didn't watch any of the Talladega race this past Sunday, but I'll probably try and watch the Roval race at Charlotte, which I probably could have thought about going to that, but I'm in North Carolina now, so it's just down the road. It's not that far.
I hope you're safe. I hope you're not near Asheville.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not in the western part of the state. I'm in North Central. I'm closer to the Virginia border than. Well, I guess Asheville's kind of closer there too, but I'm North Central. I'm south of Danville.
Not good as long as you're safe. Obviously all that stuff going on in Asheville's freaking terrible. But
I'm praying for the people in Florida now too. I mean,
it did get knocked down to a Category 3, which is still.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because I saw Daily Wire reported a few hours ago that it knocked down to a Category 3, and you do Daily
Wire. It's over land now, right? So
so it's going to lose power.
Well, it was the crazy thing is earlier today it was like releasing demons of tornadoes before it even made landfall, which is fucking crazy. Like it wasn't actually on land, but it was like the way the wind was moving was causing like F3 tornadoes, F2 tornadoes, like left and right. And I saw 2 landed. My wife was like, she saw like 5 or 6 landed. Like it's pretty it's like that's some end time shit. Like right there, like I would be if I'm sitting there. Good thing most people evacuated. That's not something, but like I guess there were like some drone videos that were still there, and you could see like videos of like one coming and then another giant touching down, and like there's like the hurricane's not even over them yet.
So, Hollywood should be out there getting footage for their next disaster film, right?
It literally could have been Twisters. They could have just actually filmed this and then just like put like superimpose the people green screen into the story, which I didn't see. I heard the movie was actually pretty good, but
I did too, but I didn't watch. I don't watch a lot of Hollywood productions anymore.
Either by choice as well.
Pro dragged me into watching whatever the Acolyte, and then he was trying to get me to do Agatha, and I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, good. Stay away. So again, you can find him, That Park Place, Stock Car Report, and he's also the host of the Trent Report, where he goes and we'll talk a bunch of stuff with That Park Place. If you could tell, he's very passionate about the same nerdy stuff that Dave and I are, and he is fighting the good fight. He's doing it in a really good way. If you want to not only find out what's going on, but also get educated as to why a lot of these people are doing it, and like I said during the show, if you don't want to take the time to go and read all the literature, good thing. John has probably read a shit ton of it. So you get a lot of background, or he knows people that also has a good background in it, and we'll bring them along as well to help him with things. So once again, we are the Alex Cuesta Show. You can go find us everywhere at the Alex Cuesta Show. We appreciate everyone that is watching and everyone that has listened via podcast. So on X, Facebook, YouTube, go do all the ritualistic things I have been telling you to do for weeks on end over there. But also on the podcast space, if you listened on Spotify, Amazon, iTunes, Apple Music, which I found out iTunes and Apple Music are two separate things now, which is crazy. iTunes is only on the computer. Apple Music is there. And if you buy Apple Music, it doesn't count to iTunes, which is fucking crazy. Yeah, Mac doing Mac things. But yeah, if you're on there, give us a 5-star rating. That's important there. Leave us comments and things like that, because that all helps. So once again,
taking lessons from Sony.
Yeah. Fuck Sony. Well, yeah. Once again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back. So long, y'all.